Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Python WebConf Day 3, Track 1. I have got Chrissy Wainwright with me from 6 Feet Up. She's going to be talking to us about flexible tile layouts in Plone using Mosaic. I will let her take it away.
Thank you. So yeah, as Calvin said, I'm going to talk about using Mosaic in Plone. First, a little bit about me, if you don't know who I am. I am a senior Python developer at 6 Feet Up. I'm currently the Plone Foundation president, and you can find me at CDW9 on most places online. So I have a quote about developing Mosaic that one of my coworkers said recently. He said, "When Mosaic works well, it's great, but when it doesn't, I want to die." And it's true, working on developing on top of Mosaic can be really frustrating sometimes, especially like if you have conflicts with the JavaScript, you don't know exactly what all pieces need to get into place. But in this talk, I'm going to show you how to do several things using Mosaic so that you don't have to figure it out yourself. And all of the code is going to be available online. I'll send out the link after the talk. So the purpose of this talk is I'm going to show various ways that Mosaic can be customized for your site to help make things easier for your editors. So this talk is aimed at developers. We're going to add a new tile into the site. We'll add a secondary Mosaic template. Now, I'm not talking about a Mosaic layout. This is going to be a template available under the display menu. And then how to add a template to the content listing tile. So the site that I have set up for this, I created a Plone 521 build out using, we have our own bobtemplates.6feetup that I created what we call a unified build outs, that it just has the build out, a content package, policy package, theme package, all bundled into one, running on Python 3. And I have left that pretty much untouched other than including plone.app.mosaic version 2.2.1. I did notice yesterday version 2.2.2 is now out, but I did not want to tempt fate in updating that. So this talk is using 2.2.1. And then I also needed to pin plone.json serializer to a newer version than what Plone 5.2.1 uses because it does have a Python 3 fix in there that was needed. So let's get on to the live demo and coding. Here is my Plone site. Like I said, pretty much out of the box Plone. You can see I updated the footer, and I went ahead and added some images ahead of time. So I'm going to activate plone.app.mosaic. Bring this up a little bit. So I'll go to Site Setup, the Add-ons control panel, and install Mosaic. And now to use that, I'll go to the root of the site and add a new page. Now, so far, if you're familiar with Plone, this is all going to look very familiar. Go ahead and publish it. Now, what the step that actually turns this into a Mosaic page, because right now it's just a regular page in Plone, is now under the display menu, I have this Mosaic layout option. So I will select that, and you still won't see any changes, not quite yet. I mean, there are a couple small things. But the big change you're going to see is when you click on Edit. And now this is giving me an option to select a layout, and these are Mosaic layouts. So these are the default ones that are available. I'll go ahead and select Basic. And now the page changes, and I have this Mosaic editor available. So I have the title, I have the summary text. If I want to add more tiles, I'll go to Layout, Customize, and I get a couple more buttons over here. So I can insert. I'll go ahead and insert a YouTube video. This is a nice video that explains how I feel about Plone. And I'll also go ahead and insert a rich text tile. It gives me some lorem ipsum text by default. We'll leave that in. Now you can see I haven't clicked anything yet. And as I hover around, it's giving me options of where I can place this tile. So the solid line is going to show me exactly where it goes. And this also supports columns, so I can put it over here and display it next to my video. Now, if I save the page, it'll take me back to the page view so I can see what it all looks like. So as you can see, this offers your site's editors quite a bit of flexibility. in how they can set up their layouts and the different tiles that are available. But what if you want to make more tiles for them? You know, something that will give your editors some more easy to use options, you know, just a form with it that they can fill out. That also keeps them within some specific style guides. So let me show you what we are going to make. I put together just a quick comp showing this. Let's say we want a page that looks something like this, you know, that has blocks of text that have titles and everything. You can see a pattern here as we figure out how we want our tile to be structured. So each of these, we can use the same tile for them. Each one has a title. They may or may not have a background image. This one down here does not. They have some text, which based on an image in this one, we can see we probably want that to be rich text. And then each one has a separate color, so we can make that another field. So let's start adding some code to be able to create this. So I have a content package, and inside of browser and configure.zacml. Let's make this prettier. All right, so here's the code that I'm adding for the tile. And of course, like I said, all of this code is going to be available later. So the two pieces I needed to add, I need to include the plone.tiles package. And then I'm adding some ZCML for a new plone tile. And for this namespace, I also needed to make sure that the plone namespace was available here. So I'm giving the tile a name. I'm going to call it pwc.styledtext. Now that name, we're going to see that referenced later. I'm giving it just a title so I know what this is. It's available for all interfaces. It has an add permission of CMF modify portal content. And now this means that anyone that has permission to edit this page in Plone has permission to add this tile. Now you can also add an edit under permission, and you can change it to be something other than modify portal content. I have done it before where I set it to modify portal so that only admins could add a specific tile. Now the tricky thing about that I didn't get around to figuring out was it still shows up for editors in the insert menu, but when they try to add it, the page just spins. They can't actually add it because of this permission block. But just to point out, it is possible to change that. And then the next two important pieces are the class and the schema being defined. So for that, I have created a tiles.py here at the same level. This is a new file. First, I have the schema. So like I talked about when we looked at the comp of what pieces we want to add, I have a title that is a text line that is required, body text that is rich text, which is also required. Next is an image. Now this one is not required because like we saw, we may or may not want the image to be there. So this one's using schema.choice with a vocabulary of the Plone catalog. And to go with this, we're also defining the widget. This image here is referencing the name of the field. And I'm going to use the related items widget. So this is going to allow me to choose an object from within the Plone site to be used here. And with the pattern options, we can add some parameters for that. You can add a path in here if you want to specify a specific folder. Mostly I want to constrain it only to the image content type. And then last field I have is a background color, for which vocabulary I'm just creating a simple vocabulary with a few choices. Next is the view class. So the code that's working behind the tile. I'm specifying a template. So that's in the templates folder, style text, and we will get to that. And then I'm updating, basically I'm creating an override of the update method. Now I needed to do this because getting the image information, I want to be able to just pass the URL of that image to the template instead of the object. So I did an override of the update function to do that. You can see here it's getting the image itself, that data that's getting that information from the form, and then it is actually getting that through the API and getting the absolute URL. So since I needed to do that for the one, I needed to make sure I also define all of the other fields as well to make sure that they properly get passed to the template. I also created another one here called tile ID that just creates a normalized version of the title so that I can use it as an ID in the template. Okay, the next piece, so this will actually create the tile, but it's not going to be available in the insert dropdown. So for that, inside of profiles default, I have registry.xml. I need to add my pwc.styled text. Now remember, this was what was set as the name in the configure.zcml. I need to add that to plone app tiles. And then I have another record that is for all of the settings for this tile. The prefix here, you'll notice it's also using the same name, but very important, it doesn't use the dot. You know, the name has a dot in it, but for the prefix here, it needs to be an underscore instead. That tripped me up for a while. The name is that same name that we already saw. The label, so this is how the title is going to appear in the insert menu. Category, I'm setting it to advanced. So if we look here, we have the different categories of these, you know, the heading, structure, media. I'm going to add it to the advanced tile for now. The other important pieces, read only. I recommend leaving this at false because if you set this to true, once you add the tile into the editor, you won't be able to delete it. So you can see over here, when I click on these, it gives me a button to delete. And if it's read only, you won't have that button. Settings equals true. So this video here, the media tile, I can click the edit button and be able to edit those fields. So that's what the settings true, it adds that edit button. If it's false, then you can't edit it, which may be helpful in certain cases. You know, like these don't have edit buttons because, you know, you can add text directly into it. Rich text on this one, I'm setting it to false, but if you have a tile that is only rich text, then that setting gives you this nice little editor up here instead of having to click the edit button. Okay, so that is the registry.xml. The last piece then is the template, which here from the class is where I'm specifying where this template will be found. So in the templates folder, the styled text.pt. And this is a simple enough tile template. Now, an important thing to note here are the HTML and body tags that I have at the top and the bottom. You know, everything needs to be wrapped in that. If I forget that part, the tile will still work in the end view, but the contents won't show up on this edit view. And it's really not very helpful for your editors if they can't see what everything is going to look like in the end. So that little piece is important. Otherwise, I'm getting the image URL. I'm setting that image as a background image on the panel heading. I'm getting the background color. I'm applying that to a class so that our styling can set that coloring. Okay, so those are all the pieces. Now, since I modified some ZCML and Python code, I need to restart my instance. I'll give that just a minute. And then since I had edited the registry.xml, I need to import that in generic setup. So in the backend on the ZMI, I'm going to go to portal setup, import, and find my pwc.content package. And I'm just going to import all the steps. So now when I go back into the site, I'll go ahead and refresh this page. Now in the insert menu, I have my styled text block, so I can click on that. It's going to give me the option to go ahead and edit it. Throw some more lorem ipsum text in there. Here's the image that it's allowing me to choose. So when I click on that, it's going to let me navigate through the site to find an image. Background color, set that to red. So I save that, and you can see it's given me the option to choose where it's going to show up. Put it here, and there's my new text block. I can edit it if I need to change something, like maybe instead I want it to be purple. And then it changes automatically. Now, of course, you can see I've already put the styling in place just because I didn't want to focus on the styling so much for this, but just I had it preloaded. All right, now let's do one more thing with this tile. So under the insert menu, remember I put it in the advanced category, but what if we want to make a new category? Like we're going to be creating lots of new tiles for this site, and we want them all to be in the same category. I can show you how to do that as well. So this is all done in the registry.xml. It's an I-weighted dict. The prefix, I'm just calling it PWC. I'm giving it a name of custom under tiles and a label that says custom tiles. That's going to be the heading that shows in the insert menu. And now I can change the category on my styled text tile to be that. If I import all of the steps again and refresh, now I have a new category over here. I kind of messed up the layout, that's okay. And I have my tile here under the new category. So now I want to move on. I want to show you another mosaic option that I did for a site recently. So this page that we put together, you can see it fits inside of the normal Plone content column. If I added portlets, portlet columns would show up to the right and to the left. The site that we were building, we did have a need to show portlets next to some of the mosaic content, but then we had other layouts that we needed the mosaic tiles to fill the whole width of the browser. Now I thought about doing that, actually we tried to do that with a mosaic layout option. So you remember when I initially changed this to a mosaic page and I had the options of basic or document, you can add more options there. And just so something that Plone does is it adds a lot of helpful classes to the body. So here I can see this portal type document. So if I want to write styles that are specific to the document content type, I can do that. A specific site or subsite. You can see there are also different layouts, different template layout. And Mosaic does the same thing. So if you create a custom Mosaic layout, it will add that class. But the problem that we were having is as soon as you go customize that layout, it loses that class name. And then it also happened to be that we needed that full width layout to be available on multiple layouts. Sometimes we needed it, sometimes we didn't. So the best way that I came up with to handle that was under the display menu to have another option here. So have a mosaic layout and then also have a full width mosaic layout. So here I'll walk through the process of how I actually did that, because it's not as straightforward as you would think. So in the ZCML, this one here. First, I'm creating a new browser page. Now, if you look through this code, you can see I'm not actually pointing to anything custom in my code. All this is doing is it's creating a new layout that will be available for the display views. I'm not actually creating a template for this. All that I needed to do was have that body class available to hook into the CSS. So this is going to be for iLayout behavior on the mosaic layer. The class, I'm using the content layout view. So this is using the same class that the current mosaic view is. The next piece was to monkey patch the mosaic layouts, because doing this piece along with the document.xml, which I'll get to in a minute, it adds it under the display menu, but then Mosaic isn't actually aware of it yet. So we needed to add another step of making Mosaic aware of this layout, because you could select it, but when I went to edit the page, I wouldn't get the Mosaic editor. So that's what the monkey patch is for. And then the last piece is an adapter that adds a custom class to the body. So these are pointing at common.py, where I here created a new layout views. So if you look in the original one in plone.app.mosaic widget, it defines a variable called layout views that only has layout view assigned here. So I'm creating new layout views. I need to make sure to include the original because I still want that one, and then adding my new one here as well. And then some other code that is actually patching that to make it available. And then the other piece here is hooking into the code that adds the classes to the body tag to add a new one. So here I'm saying if layout is that full width layout view, return full width mosaic layout. So it's going to add that as a new class to be with all of the other ones. Then the other change is to make sure that that new layout is available for the document content type, which is the page. So in profiles default, I added a types folder, and document.xml. Need to make sure under view methods that I have that full width layout view available. And then the last piece was I changed the rules.xml, because remember I said I want it to fill the width of the browser. You know, I don't want it to be in the content column. I don't want to display the right and left portlets. So I did make a change to the diazo rules. Now this is just a copy of the Barceloneta diazo rules. And the pieces I changed was where it replaces the columns. I added this if not content full width mosaic layout. So there's that name of that class I just created. So these rules are only going to apply if we are not on the full width layout, mosaic layout. And then a new rule for when we are on the full width mosaic layout, that's just specifying which item in the theme to replace the content with. All right, so now I can restart the instance. I made some changes to the ZCML and some Python. Then I will re-import generic setup because I made the change in the document.xml. And so now in the display menu, I have my new option, full width mosaic layout, and I did not apply any custom styling for this. I only made the change in the rules.xml. When I changed that full width mosaic layout, now you can see this is filling the full browser width. But since that class is available on the body, that gives you the option to, apply any new styling as needed. So yeah, there's my full width mosaic layout. Okay, so there's one more piece I wanted to walk through, and I'm actually getting through all this faster than I thought I would be. So the content listing tile. I'll show you what this looks like in the Plone site. So one of the options here in the insert menu is this content listing. Now, and that happens sometimes. I'm not sure why. Fortunately, I've only seen that happen in development. I've not seen that happen in production. The instance just quits. All right, I'll add a new content listing tile. And for those of you familiar with Plone, you will see that this is going to look like a collection when you go edit it. So by default, it just has some, it's just looking at the parent object doing a folder listing. But this gives you the full functionality of a collection to choose what you want to display. And a takeout collection. and only show images. I can give it a title, a summary if I want, a limit if we want to show maybe only 6 objects at a time, depending on what you want your layout to look like. And then you can see down here is display mode. It gives you some different options of templates for how this content will actually display. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to add another display mode here. We'll leave it at listing view for now. You can see what that looks like. So yeah, I just threw some images in here and made sure to reference the URL that I got them from. Change display back to mosaic layout. And that's a nice thing here is like you can even switch back to view document and it looks like you lose all of the mosaic content. But once you go back to mosaic layout, it's all still there. Okay, so let's start making a new template for this. So back to the configure.html, I have one more piece here to uncomment. Making a new browser view, calling it tile album view. It's on the iContent listing tile layer. And then I'm specifying the template. So this one, I'm not going to have any custom view class. I don't have any custom Python working behind it. It's mostly just going to be the template. So in the templates folder in tile album view, save that. So this is code that I had copied from another content listing and then customized for how I wanted it to look. But it's looping over the results. Here's the actual loop. It's getting the items, it's displaying the images, it's linking all of them. And then with each one, I'm going to display the title and also the rights field because I wanted to show that for each of the images. The next piece is to add it to the registry.xml. Make sure that it is available in that dropdown for the display mode. So for Plone app standard tiles listing views, the important piece here is adding a new value of album view. So album view, this is how it's going to display in the dropdown. And this tile album view is referencing the name of the browser page that I had created. So once again, a restart and an import. And now when I go edit the page, I can edit that tile and select my new templates. So there's album view. This was another one I went ahead and added styles ahead of time, but there's my new album view for displaying the images. So you can see this gives you a lot of flexibility in how you can display all of the content in the site. Having lots of different options for your editors that still keeps them within some specific parameters, and not just handing them HTML and saying, okay, here, do whatever you want. So the code for this talk, like I said, it's all online. Make sure you get the link. I set up this mosaic examples, and if you look in the commits, which is where I am right now, everything is separate. So each separate piece that I showed throughout the talk is all here in a separate commit. So it's really easy to see, exactly what I had changed for this. And I hope this is really helpful for you as you're doing any customizations like this with Mosaic. So that's all I've got. Thank you for watching.
Hey, Chrissy, thank you so much for being a presenter here at the Python Web Conference. I think there are some folks actually in the gallery looking forward to asking you some face-to-face questions. And again, we really appreciate you being a part of this.
Thank you.